video is for grouping practice number 1. We're going to do 3 problems here. If you have questions on any questions other than these 3, you can check the key on Canvas or ask your teacher for help. This is the practice that's on the back of the grouping notes. Okay, so remember, when you group, you always have to remember to look for a GCF first. So when I look at these numbers, I have 5, 2, negative 20, and negative 8. They don't have anything in common between all 4 of them. So since I have 4 terms, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into factoring by grouping. So when I factor by grouping, I start by looking for a GCF for the first 2 terms. Between 5x cubed and 2x squared, there's no number in common, but they both have x's. So when you pull out your GCF, you take the lower of the 2 exponents, which is x squared. I pull that x squared out in front, and when I divide, I'm left with 5x cubed divided by x squared gives me a 5x. These x squares cancel, so I have a plus 2. For my next set of parentheses, I start with a negative sign, which means my GCF is going to be negative. Negative 20 and negative 8 both have a negative 4 that goes into them. So I factor out the GCF of negative 4. Now in the first term, negative divided by negative is a positive, and that will be positive 5x, which is good because I had a 5x over here. Negative 8 divided by negative 4 is a positive 2. Good thing because these sets of parentheses are the same now. So when I write my factored form, I pull the 5x plus 2 down, and then I take the GCFs from out in front, x squared minus 4, and I write those in. Now here's the only tricky thing about this problem, is I can actually continue factoring. It's a little sneaky, but this x squared minus 4 still factors. This guy's going to factor by the difference of squares. We snuck it in. You have to be paying attention for that. Remember, difference of squares happens when there's a minus sign, and 2 terms I can take the square root of. So if I can take the square root of x squared, which is x, the square root of 4, which is 2, I'm going to use that x and 2 to factor that x squared minus 4. Now, this 5x plus 2 comes down. That is still a factor in part of my answer. This right-hand side here is going to factor into our 2 binomials using the difference of square pattern. So I'm going to highlight it so we know that it matches with the yellow up above. Remember, we put our x on the left in both parentheses, the 2 on the right, we get 1 plus sign and 1 minus sign. And those 3 factors are actually the fully factored form of our original polynomial with 4 terms. Now we look at number 3. So we always start by looking for a GCF. It does look like there's a 2 that goes into all of these numbers. They're all even. There's no x though because 100 here on the end doesn't have an x. So I'm going to divide 2 out of every term. Okay. So just like we did on the notes, when I pull that GCF out, I'm just going to kind of let it hang out in front of our bracket. It's not going to do anything now, but it's part of our factored form. When I divided 2 here, I'm left with x cubed plus 2x squared. Now here, minus 25x minus 50. And so I divided everything by 2. I can now go ahead and group. So first 2 go in a parenthesis, the second 2 go in a group. Now my GCF of 2 stays in front. I just let it hang out there. The GCF for this first group, it looks like they both have x squared in common. So I'm going to write my x squared first. And when I divide, x cubed divided by x squared is x to the first. Remember, you subtract the 3 minus 2. Here the x's cancel, so I'll have a plus 2. All right, now on this one, negative 25 means I'm going to have a negative GCF. We'll pull out a negative 25 here, which comes down in front. And we will then have those cancel. X, a negative 50 divided by a negative 25 is positive 2. So that's good that these x plus 2's are the same. So the next step is I have my GCF. I take what's in the parentheses, x plus 2, and then I take what's out in front of the parentheses, x squared minus 25. Now, unfortunately, we can still factor x squared minus 25, just like the last problem. I chose this one because it's hard. Just like the last one, we can still do difference of squares. So you need to take the square root of both terms. The square root of x squared is x. It's 5. So the first two things stay the same. The 2 is the same. The x plus 2 is the same. But here, these guys that were highlighted and were in pink have to factor one more time. I pull that x into both, the 5 into both, a plus, and a minus. So all of that is your final factored form. All right, I have one more to do on this practice here. Let's see, 12, 21, 28, 49. It doesn't look like there's a GCF there. So I'm going to go ahead and start with just grouping. The first two and the second two. So from the first group, 12 and 21 both have a 3 that goes into them. And they both have x's. The smaller exponent is x squared. 28 and 49. Oh wait, I'm sorry. We got to finish the left side first. I pull the 3x squared out in front. And when I divide, 12 divided by 3 is 4. X cubed divided by x squared is x. Negative 21 divided by 3 is negative 7, and those x's cancel off. Now on the right side, 28 and 49. I'm going to have a positive GCF because I have a plus sign. They both have a 7. So when I pull out a 7 here, I'll have 28x divided by 7, which is 4x. A negative divided by positive will be a negative, and that'll give me 7. It's good because these parentheses are the same, so they come down. And then the other set of parentheses is what was in front, 3x squared plus 7. This time, nothing factors any farther because I can't use difference of squares because I have a plus sign here. And 3 and 7, I can't take the square root of. So those are some problems, the harder problems on that first practice sheet. There is a second practice sheet if you need a little extra.